If you've been trying to find your style roots, but you're still a little bit confused and not sure what yours are, this video is going to help. I'm going to walk you through a very simple and fun game where I'll ask you to fix 4 outfits. What you choose to keep and what you decide to change is going to reveal so much about your style preferences and needs. So grab a piece of paper and your favorite drink and let's go. So if you're new to the style root system or you want a deeper dive into what each root means, definitely check out my previous video. It is a much deeper dive with examples from my own wardrobe and it's going to give you a lot of the context behind today's game. But for now, let's focus on playing. So rather than giving you all the rules beforehand, let me just start with the first example and you're going to get it. All right, so the first level we're going to explore is the level of formality. So if you think about how casual or formal outfits appear, I would say the outfit we have in here is kind of in the middle because we have jeans, but they're kind of structured. We have a very classic but still relaxed fit jumper. We have the black loafers, but they're lower heel. And then we have a black relaxed bag. So I would say that in this kind of outfit, you can go to most places and feel absolutely fine. And so that is why I have placed it at the middle in the 0. So if this is the most comfortable outfit for you, then choose that one. But for now, let's have a look into going into one or the other direction. So the first direction we're going to explore is the formal direction. And so in here, you can see that each of the outfits get progressively more and more formal. So in +1, we have a t-shirt with a blazer, still the same loafers. We have made the bag a little bit more structured and we've also added a belt. And so this outfit is definitely a little bit more formal, but is still relatively casual. Now for the next one, we have replaced the loafers with pointed toe boots. We have made the jeans longer, a little bit more intimidating, and we have added a jumper with a higher collar and a more structured bag. And then the final version of this outfit, you can see we have the black turtleneck, we have the long coat, the much more structured bag, the jeans and the pointed toe shoes. So I would say if we're trying to make a black jumper and jeans outfit, this is probably the most formal version that we can create of that specific one. So I want you to write down the number out of those 4 outfits. Which one would you feel the most comfortable in? Which one feels the most you, the most truthful, and where you don't feel like you're completely pushing yourself out there? And that is going to be your score for the mountain style route. And something that I forgot to mention, but I think it's really important, is to kind of ignore almost the elements of the outfit. So you might not be a jeans and a sweater kind of person. You may only wear dresses. That's totally fine. But if you were to wear jeans with the black jumper, how would you actually fix this outfit to make it feel more comfortable to you? That's the important part. Because some of those outfits I may show you later on as well, you might feel that none of them is you, which is fine, circle to 0. But the important part is to understand if you were to make any changes, how do you actually make those changes and how far do you actually go? Now let's go into a different direction and explore if we're trying to make this outfit more casual. So in the -1 level, we have kept the jumper pretty much the same, but we've added a t-shirt and we've replaced the loafers with sneakers. It's kind of the same outfit, it's just a little bit more casual. Now for -2 and -3, we've actually added more oversized sweatshirts rather than a jumper. And you can see that the -3 level is even more casual, more baggy, more loose fitting. So it's even more relaxed. So again, I want you to pick the number that represents your level of comfort. And so my scores in here are +2 for mountain and -1 for stone. Now, the next level is all about contrast and visual interest. And so we can have outfits that have very low contrast and very minimal details, or on the other side, we can have outfits that have a higher contrast and are a lot more detailed. Now, I've picked an outfit that is quite simple in terms of pieces. There are not that many accessories or crazy odd shapes, but there is still some contrast and a little bit of visual interest with the bag. And so I have deemed this to be neutral. Now, if we're trying to make an outfit that is with a slip skirt and a jumper, if we go into the higher contrast and more detailed direction, which one feels like your level of comfort? So in +1, we have changed the skirt to be a much brighter color, and we have added a little bit more visual interest by making the jumper just a little bit more intricate. We also have a little bit more accessories like the hair accessory, but it's not that far, it's not that different from the previous outfit. Now in +2, we not only have the bright color, but we've also added a pattern, and we also have a slightly more interesting accessories like the bigger earrings, the bag and the bracelets. So it definitely feels a lot more detailed, more visually interesting. And there's also definitely a higher contrast than in the previous outfit. And then in +3, we not only have the higher contrast in terms of colors, but we also have a higher contrast in terms of styles. There is more interesting details, and the slip skirt is even a little bit more unusual. And rather than a jumper, we've actually used a hoodie. So there is definitely higher contrast, higher level of details, intricacy, and this outfit is just visually more. So I want you to circle, if you were to create a slip skirt and jumper shirt, anything on top kind of outfit, which one of those three feels the most comfortable to you, which one are you most attracted to. And then if we go into the other direction, now we're lowering the contrast and making it more and more minimal. So in the -1 level, we've lowered the contrast, but there is still some detail on the sandals, there is the belt, the jumper has a little bit more intricate pattern, so there is still some level of detail, like we're not completely minimal, it's just that it is lower contrast. Now in the -2 level, I would say that we've simplified quite a lot. We're going into more classic shapes, more traditional items, the sandals are even more minimal, and the only contrast really is that we have the cream and black on the cardigan, but besides that, it's quite a minimal and lower contrast outfit. And then the -3 level, you can see we literally have 4 elements. We have jumper, skirt, bag, and shoes. And I would say that they're very, very similar. This outfit is very understated, minimal, simple. And this is an aesthetic that some people may be very, very drawn to. So again, from the scale of 0 to -3, where are you on this style route? And so my scores in here is actually +2 for sun and 0 for mushroom. By the way, if you're finding this helpful so far, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe because it helps me to support more people with finding their personal style. Now let's move on to the next level. In here, I've called it a level of brightness. So you can think about this as how dark or how light your outfit is, but it can also be around how tough or delicate the outfit appears. And so you can see in here, I selected an outfit that is going to be a mini skirt with a sort of lacy top, but I've decided to pick one item that is black, maybe a little bit more tough or edgy, and then we have the very romantic lace blouse. And so together, because they are quite contrasted, I would say they almost balance each other out, and so this outfit is the 0. So if we were to go into a lighter and more delicate direction, how far do you go? So in +1, we have kept a little bit of darkness. It is still a floral ruffle skirt, but it is still a little bit darker. And you can see the top has ruffles, some details, but it could be the same lacy top. It kind of doesn't matter. The bottom is the more important part in here. In +2, we have made the contrast a little bit lower. All of the items are a little bit more delicate. They are lighter in color as well. We have the floral elements. And so this outfit definitely feels more delicate than the previous one. And then in +3, we're leaning even more into that romantic, feminine, girly, delicate direction. And you can see there is a bow in her hair. The jumper has the sort of vintage feel. The skirt has a lot of ruffles and very delicate details. And so this one is the lightest and the most delicate out of all of those outfits. So once you know your score in this direction, let's move to the other one. So in here, we have kept the delicateness of the top, even though it is a jumper, but the important part in here is that we have made the skirt a little bit darker and tougher. So it has those zips and chain details. The back as well has a bit of studs. And so this one appears just a little bit darker, a little bit edgier and tougher than the previous one. In -2, we are now removing the white and we are replacing that with black lace. And so this outfit is darker, moodier, maybe a little bit more sensual in that way, but the important part in here is the darkness. And then for -3, we have added the chain belt. There's actually 2 different belts. The lace is a lot darker and moodier in here, right? And so we have the -3. And you can see that progression of the outfit getting darker and darker the further away we go from the middle. So what is your score for the moon style route? Now, for me, I have assigned myself +1 for flower and then -2 for moon. And as a reminder, you don't have to necessarily like the outfit that you're choosing or want to wear it exactly as it is, in the sense of you might not be someone that wears a miniskirt. That's totally fine. The important part in here is to know down how dark or how light are you willing to go, how kind of really romantic vintage in one direction and how maybe darker or tougher in the other. And so maybe it isn't a miniskirt, maybe it's a slightly longer skirt. The important part in here, as I said, is that level of brightness. And now that you know your level of brightness, let's move to the final level, and that is fit. And so in here, we can go from very fitted and figure-hugging outfits all the way to more loose and flowy ones. And so in here, I would say that we have a boho romantic kind of outfit. And so we're going to look into jeans and a red top. And you can see that the jeans are more looser fitting, but then we have the tighter top that is a little bit more romantic, more open. Then we have the more bohemian jewelry, and we have the bag that, even though it is a little bit more structured, it does have this mustard color. And so this outfit is not very fitted and it's not very loose and flowy, so it's kind of in the middle. Now, if we were to go into the more loose and flowy direction, which is your level of comfort? So you can see in the +1, we have made the top a little bit more looser fitting. You can see there's a bit more ruffles. There's a bit more of that bohemian jewelry with the sunglasses, the bangle, the back is definitely slightly looser fitting, more of that boho vibe. And the jeans have a little bit more of that kind of bell curve. But overall, it's not that different. It's just that the top is a little bit looser fitting. In +2, we have decided to change the top to something that's a little bit more on the orange side, because this very bright red isn't necessarily an earthy color. So we're changing it to something a little bit more natural. And then the jeans are becoming more looser fitting and also longer. And we've also added that boho inspired belt. And then for +3, we've added this more natural leafy print kind of blouse. I would say this has more of a retro vintage vibe, especially with the jeans as well. So this reminds me quite a lot of like 70s inspired outfits with the hoop earrings as well. So again, try and choose how far comfortable would you be with this kind of outfit. And then if we go into the other direction, now we're starting to get more fitted. So for -1, I tried to pick something that had just one fitted element. And so in here, I've chosen it to be the top, but it could be the bottom is fitted with a very, very loose top. That is also -1. But in here, that's kind of how I've decided to balance it. And you can see that for the more fitted and figure-hugging side, we're starting to also use pointed toe shoes and higher shoes. And the height here is important. So for -2, we are now moving into not just the red, which is kind of that more fire element, but we also have the more figure-hugging jeans and the pink-red shoes. And then for -3, we have an outfit that is fitted on both top and bottom. It's a little bit more sensual, a little bit maybe more revealing, even though it is not necessarily very open in any way. It is still a lot more figure-hugging, a lot more fitted. And so if you were to wear a jeans and a red top, out of those 4, what is your level of comfort? And so for me, mine are -2 for the fire. I'm happy to do, let's say, slim fitting jeans with a slightly looser but still red romantic top. And for the earth side, I am on a +1, if that. I'm definitely not very comfortable with the more retro vintage inspired prints, with the more looser fitting items, the bell bottoms, anything like that is a little bit outside of my comfort zone. So by now, you should have your scores for each of the style routes. And so you can see in here, I have written mine down with the numbers. And what we're going to do next is we're going to put them into my style needs scale. And if you haven't seen my previous video, you might not be familiar with the style needs concept. So let me just give you a little bit of a refresher and I'll show you how we can use that. So the style needs are those 4 core needs that we might have. So one of them is to feel put together and timeless, and that's the mushroom mountain spectrum. The next one is to feel more relaxed or to be more practical, and that is the stone earth spectrum. The next one is the need to feel feminine, which is the fire flower spectrum. And if you watched my previous video, those were reversed, but in here I have put them fire flower, and you'll see why in a second. And then the final one is that style need to feel more interesting, different from the other people, maybe creatively edgy, and so that is the moon to sun spectrum. So if you try to put all 4 needs in an outfit, that can be very confusing. And so that's why if you have 4 different style routes and you try to put them in an outfit, it can be difficult, because if you want to feel put together, relaxed and feminine, but also interesting, it can be quite challenging, right? And so for most of us, we might have 2 or 3 style needs that we dress for usually, and then the other one is kind of there or not at all. So what you're going to do is that for each style route, you are going to put the scores on the sheet. So let's say you can see in here that I have put 0 for the mushroom side, and then I've put +2 for the mountain. And that is going to give me the range on the spectrum. So what this means basically is that if I want to feel put together and timeless, for me to achieve that, I need to actually lean a lot more into the mountain side and not necessarily into mushroom. And so I have put all of my scores in here on the different style ranges. And you can see that in the relaxed practical, I was -1 for stone and +1 for earth. So it's a relatively small range in here. It's not very far from the middle. For the feminine one, I put -2 for fire and +1 for flower. And so what this means is that if I want to include feminine in my outfits, I am better off buying pieces or creating outfits that lean a little bit more womanly, glam, mature, sensual, rather than delicate, short and girly. But I still have some tolerance in here for that. And then finally for me, we have the moon sun one. And in here I have from -2 to +2, which is basically my biggest range. So I can go quite dark or quite edgy, or I can go quite interesting and creative. And so this should hopefully give you an idea, if you're putting together outfits, which way you can lean into. But how do you actually use that? So what you can do is you can rank your style needs. So for me, for example, what I know is non-negotiable because I have the highest range in here, which means that a lot of the stuff that I like falls into that spectrum, is actually the interesting, creatively edgy. And so if my outfit is made of pieces that are maybe feminine and put together, but they're lacking a bit of that visual interest, I'm not going to be happy with that outfit. Versus if my outfit is not very relaxed and practical or not extremely polished, I'm actually okay with that. And that is something that I have learned about myself the more I've started to explore my style, is that I need to lean into pieces that have some form of visual interest and create outfits that have some sort of visual interest, because otherwise I'm not happy with my own outfits. So next we have the second need. And again, you might have two that are equally important for you, so they have exactly the same range. You might even have three that have exactly the same range. So your scale of how you order your style priorities and style needs is going to be different from mine. But for me, I know that this is the highest, feminine is the second. So even if I make an outfit that only fulfills those two style needs, I'm still going to be quite happy with it. And then the lowest ones are relaxed, practical and put together, timeless. And you can see how the mushroom here is pretty much non-existent. I do use sometimes the style sandwich technique, which is basically the top and the shoes match. But outside of that, I'm not really drawn to very minimal items, to very classic silhouettes. And I'm definitely more of a visual maximalist than minimalist. And so for me, mushroom is probably the lowest performing route. And so if this is maybe a bit too broad and you just want a combination of 3 style routes, what you can do is order the ones that have the highest score. And so for me, I had moon and sun with 2 points, fire with 2 points, and mountain with 2 points. And so any combination of moon, fire, mountain or sun, fire, mountain is very helpful for me. And if I use those style routes, I can build really good outfits. I can also lean into flower a little bit if I wanted to, rather than fire. And I have recently started to replace mountain, so that need to feel more polished and classic, with the need to feel a little bit more relaxed and comfortable. And so that is also an option for me to replace that. Now, you might find that some style routes you have zeros, so probably those are the ones that you're not really going to incorporate in your outfits at all. But in general, this should help you to give you your style route combination. And like I said in my previous video, it is totally normal for your style routes to actually change with the season. And so for me, for example, moon, fire and mountain is my sort of winter combination, where I would go for longer structured coats, darker faux leather pants, turtlenecks, red, velvet, all of those more wintry, maybe more fitted elements. And then in the summer, I would still go for sun, fire and mountain. That's totally fine. I can do shirts, I can do kind of brighter reds, but I am also absolutely fine leaning more into flower if I wanted something feminine. So all of my more delicate, intricate blouses are falling into that. And I have recently actually started to replace those more structured elements with denim, flowier trousers, anything that is a little bit more looser fitting. And that is helping me to create my more casual outfits. And now that you know your style routes and style needs, you might want to put them into outfits. So if you want my support with clarifying your style, confirming that what you found is actually reflected in how you put your outfits together, and helping you to create some new outfits that suit your lifestyle, your body type, and your preferences, you can check out my style strategy sessions. I'll leave the link in the description. Now, let me know what your style routes or needs are in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!